Hello, hello. It's Lisa Christensen, and I am here to share with you how I like to paint what I call my 3 by 3 landscapes. And I'll do these little cute, I don't know, these very intuitive landscapes. Um, Mostly for my color meditations, I like to play with colors, and they're fairly abstract. I mean, you can kind of see that it's a landscape. It's very simple. I have taken a lot of different landscape courses, and the thing that keeps coming back to me is that there's three things that I need to know about landscapes. And the first one is the value. We have three. There's three. Usually, if I can get a good landscape, that's because there's three values. There's a light value, a mid-tone value, and then this dark value. And usually, if I can get those three right, it can become a landscape. And then I like to do three color landscapes because I think a triad can really give you a lot of different hues. I see some brown in here. That's from the green and the red. And then the simple indigo and the sap green can really play nice together. So again, three values, three colors, and then three elements to a landscape: the sky or the background, the middle ground, which is these rolling hills, and then the foreground, which is these grasses. And if I wanted to add a little bit more, which I think I will, I can add a little bit of the grass, thicker blades of grass. And I'm just using sap green. I might actually use some of this indigo, but I'll show you what I mean. I can get some dry brush, and it might be that my brush is not wet enough. um, but you can get a lot of wonderful uh, foreground, midground. Um, let's see. All right. I always like to use a fan brush, but I never have one handy, so I just use my brush and I just move the bristles. But you can kind of get the idea of this dry grass going on, and it's going to look really pretty when it's dry. It's going to look rich, and I can go in with the brown if I wanted to. But so something kind of like that, just to give it a little bit more depth to it. So, anyways, let's get started with a white one. The colors that I'm using are from the core um, earth colors. I call them the landscape palette, but I guess it's really called the earth colors. And in here, I take uh, my watercolors and I put them in this palette right here. And so I'm going to use Venetian Red, Sap Green, and Indigo. And that's what this is. And I love the tin. I just love core colors. They just make my heart happy. A friend of mine who I just recently showed core watercolors to, she's like, I love them. The colors are so bright. So let me give you, I'll probably paint on two different sides, but let me show you the quality of cores. So Venetian Red is very opaque. It's definitely not translucent, but look at that granulation. It's just absolutely stunning. I think it makes for really pretty earth landscapes. And I think it would also make for really pretty flesh tone, skin tone. And then if you were to go in next to the green, look at how that blends. It's just gorgeous. It just makes my heart happy. And I will often play around with these colors and find a landscape just from playing with these colors. There's a pretty turquoise that comes from just putting the indigo with the green. And the indigo, I mean, there's darker indigos. So I would not call this like a true indigo. And maybe it's not. I thought it was called indigo. Yeah, it is called indigo. So, anyways, it's just gorgeous. These three colors together just make for beautiful, beautiful landscapes. And I don't use very much on my brush. I suppose you could if you wanted to, but I say watercolor. It goes a long way. So, anyways, that's always really fun. And then if I'm gonna make a color play, then I always like to splatter some gold onto it just to say it's watercolor, and I like it to blend. So I'm going to let that dry, and let's get on to the landscape. So if you are not comfortable with um, a non-pencil drawing, just a blank sheet of paper, this is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Sorry, 4 by 5 1/4 for an A2 card size. So it's pretty small. that's the size I'm working with. However, if you are worried, if you're like, oh, there's no pencil mark, um, keep practicing and just learn the rules, the composition rules, the thirds. So 1, 2, 3, right? There's the rules of thirds. And I want my sky, it looks like it's about 1/3 of the way down, roughly 1/3 of the way down. And I will wet it first. I think all good skies are wet into wet. I say that, and then I will do skies that are not wet into wet. But for this one, I'm going to do wet into wet, and I'm actually going to go a little bit further down than 1/3. It's not quite half, but it would appear that way. First off, I'm going to add a little tiny bit of my indigo. Remember, I said indigo goes a long way, so I don't really need a whole lot. And I'm just going to kind of make these whooshy clouds. And Core Watercolor does that, and it just makes for fantastic skies and landscapes. Now I want my Venetian Red to be very light too. And I'm just going to kind of go in, and I know that I want just a little bit of, and then I'm going to kind of just add a little bit more here because I want it to be darker than. All right, I really like that. I think I could probably move this and just kind of keep it going towards, but it looks like a sky already, and I'm going to leave it at that. Now I'm going to let that kind of dry, and I'm going to work on my I don't know, lake or river or whatever you want to call it. And this is, I'm going to go down to the third, and I'm just going to add this indigo, and I'm lightly brushing it so it looks like water. You can kind of see it. And I don't want to just paint one way. I want my brush to kind of skip through and then I'm going to add some water, and I'm just going to let water kind of flow, and that will help because, watercolor, it's so much fun to paint water with watercolor because it's already done for you. And I'm going to let that be. I see a couple of spots. So this is our very, right now, I would call this my mid-tone value. There, I like that. Okay, I think I can go into my sap green, and I'm going to add my indigo. This is the darkest part. And I'm going to start adding my horizon line right here. Usually when we look in the horizon, across the horizon line, the sun would be like behind the horizon line. So the horizon line can be pretty deep. I really love these happy accidents right there. It's bleeding into the blue. I'm going to do that again over here just to give it kind of wipe that away because it spread out as much as it looks like it. All right, now I'm going to add a bead of water here, and I'm going to add some sap green. So that's my dark layer. Let's see, I had a hill that kind of went like this, and then another hill that did that. We're just kind of getting the midtones in. And now I can go back in with my indigo, and I'm going to add some of that sap green. This would be a shadow right here, and then I would have maybe one more rolling hill like that. That's kind of off in the distance, and that would be my darker value, except for I still want some of this foreground in here, and I really want to be able to, that's just going to be a very light mist, almost like it's a, okay. I'll go back in darker for the hills, but for now I think I like that where it is. I'll add some more green right there. All right, now it's time to get the Venetian Red in with the green, and we're just going to add a little bit of this foreground. we can kind of get away with this brown color because I'm going to go back up around with the darker green. Add. I don't always like to take my paper down, and I know I've said that multiple times. I have never had a problem with it working for cards, but I'm just going to kind of give some depth to it. And then like I said, I was going to go back in with the water because it looks pretty light. I'm going to start here. This is my darkest dark. Gotta get that in. I might be doing one more layer. We'll see how it goes. And I already have that blue, so I really don't have to reinvent how I want my water to look. I just have to make it look believable. And that looks believable to me. And I'm loving that granulation right there. I think this hill got a little bit lost. So I'm going to add that form again and add some more of that soft green just right over it. I think that will look pretty. And now if I were to wait for it to dry, I can get into the darker shades and get my grass. And I could even go one more layer and just do some blue. So my brush is dry enough that I can shape my brush to kind of fan it out. And then the blue is just going to add more of that depth to the green. And you can't really control it, and I think that's why I like it so much. But it does add when you get the green, when you get the brown and then you get the green on top of it with the blue, it really can set off the whole painting. So there we go. There is your landscape, and then this will dry and I would do the same thing, but it's too wet and there's no sense in waiting for the paint to dry when that's all I had to do. So yeah, it'll really look pretty. I'm really loving this gradation and the mixing and mingling of the colors right in there. So anyways, I hope this helps. I hope that gives you an idea of how I like to go about doing landscapes, and I'll do small studies like this. I live in Iowa, so we have a lot of green rolling hills, and on Highway 80, Interstate 80, in the evening, oftentimes the colors are so vibrant that it's just fun to paint these little studies and remind me of of Iowa. This could be a river, this could be just a deep valley. I can make this even deeper and have more green so it looks more like a deep ditch or something. But I like it the way it is. It's supposed to be very intuitive and very loose and fluid, and that's how I like to paint my landscapes. And I definitely love my 3x3 style where I got my 3 values, my 3 colors, and my 3 elements, and I'm good. I can make this into a card and be on my way and give this to somebody. So it's a great way to use mindfulness as well. So anyways, I'm so glad you guys are watching, and I hope this helps give you some inspiration to try some new colored palettes out. I would call this a earth tone or low key color palette if you're used to color theory. And if you want to learn more about color theory and triads, please leave me a message. I would love to share my color theory knowledge with you. Thanks so much. Happy painting.